It was the happiest day of Nia's life. After years of hard work and sleepless nights, she was finally graduating from Bale University with top honors. Everyone was there, her proud parents, friends, classmates, and most of all, her boyfriend of 5 years, Chaik. She had dreamed of this day for so long, hoping he'd be the first to hug her, maybe even surprise her with something special. And he did. Just not in the way anyone expected. Right after Nia received her award and the applause faded, Chaik walked to the center of the stage. Everyone thought he was going to propose to Nia. Cameras were already rolling, people smiling, ready to cheer. But then, to Nia's shock, he turned to her younger sister, Amelie, dropped to one knee, and pulled out a ring. The crowd gasped. Nia froze. Her heart sank. Her hands, still holding her graduation certificate, began to shake. Amelie screamed, "Yes," and ran into Chaik's arms as the crowd erupted in confusion. Her parents didn't know what to do. Some clapped. Others just stared. The moment that was supposed to celebrate Nia's success became Amelie's engagement show. Nia stood there, forgotten. Her smile disappeared. No one noticed the tears quietly falling down her cheeks. That day, the brightest moment of her life turned dark. In one public, painful moment, everything she thought she knew about love, family, and trust came crashing down in front of the whole world. For 5 years, Nia and Chaik had been the perfect couple. Everyone around them believed they would end up together forever. He was there for her through everything, from her first day at university to the long nights she spent working on her final thesis. Chaik would stay up with her, reading drafts, making tea, encouraging her when she wanted to give up. He wasn't just her boyfriend. He was her best friend, her biggest supporter, her future. Nia trusted him with her heart, her dreams, and her life. And then there was Amelie, Nia's younger sister. Pretty, loud, and always needing attention. She had grown up in Nia's shadow. Nia was the smart one, the favorite, the one who got praise and applause. Amelie always smiled in front of Nia, but behind that smile was jealousy that ran deep. Still, Nia loved her. She never thought of Amelie as competition. They were sisters, after all. They shared clothes, secrets, laughs, or so Nia thought. But what Nia didn't know was that, while she was focused on her future, Amelie had her eyes on Chaik. It started with small things, inside jokes, long stares, quiet whispers when they thought no one was looking. Nia noticed sometimes, but brushed it off. They're just getting along, she told herself. She never imagined that her own sister would go behind her back. When Chaik proposed to Amelie on Nia's graduation day, the truth hit like a knife. But the real pain came after, in the quiet moments, the memories. Nia started remembering the signs. The day Chaik forgot their anniversary but said he was busy helping Amelie with her surprise project. The weekend he cancelled their trip because he said he was sick, but posted a photo 2 days later that Amelie had taken. All the little lies started connecting like puzzle pieces. It wasn't just a mistake. It had been going on for a while. They had betrayed her, not just once, but over and over again. Nia didn't cry in front of them. She didn't scream or ask why. She simply smiled, walked away, and disappeared. But inside, she was broken. The people she loved most had taken her trust and crushed it. It wasn't just the loss of a boyfriend. It was the loss of her sister, her family, her safe place. She felt like she had no one. Everyone around her had been clapping for a lie, celebrating a betrayal. And she had stood there, watching it all happen like a bad dream she couldn't wake up from. But even in her pain, something inside Nia refused to break completely. She knew she couldn't change the past. But she could decide what came next. And in that quiet, heartbroken moment, Nia made a silent promise to herself. She would rise. She would rebuild. Not to prove anything to them, but for herself. They thought they had won. But they had no idea who they had just pushed to the edge. After the shock of that heartbreaking day, Nia vanished. Just like that. No goodbye, no explanation. She didn't go home. She didn't answer calls. Her social media went dark. No photos, no status updates, no comments. It was like she had completely disappeared from the world. Her family whispered that maybe she needed space. Some thought she had accepted it all, the betrayal, the humiliation, the heartbreak. They said, she's quiet. She must be healing. But Nia wasn't healing. Not yet. Her silence was not weakness. It was the beginning of something far more powerful. Alone in a small apartment far away from Bale, Nia sat with the weight of everything that had happened. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She didn't beg for answers. She simply stared at the ceiling and replayed every moment in her mind, the laughter, the betrayal, the way Emily smiled like she had won, the way Chaik didn't even look guilty. That silence became her shield. Her fuel. She knew she couldn't go back to the person she was. That girl was gone. While the world moved on, Nia began building. She read books, took online courses, and applied for scholarships. She stayed off the radar. No one knew she had moved to Accra. No one saw her working every day in silence, turning pain into power. She wasn't chasing revenge with fire or rage. She was crafting it carefully, like a work of art. Not messy. Not loud. Just cold, brilliant, and unstoppable. Everyone had counted her out. They thought she had broken down and disappeared forever. But they didn't know that silence could be louder than screams. They didn't know that some storms don't start with thunder, they start with stillness. And Nia's silence? It was the warning before the earthquake. Each day, she grew stronger. Each night, she planned deeper. Nia didn't want to just move on. She wanted to rise so high that they'd have no choice but to look up and remember what they did. She didn't post quotes or photos to prove her growth. She didn't need validation. Her revenge wasn't just about showing them she was better, it was about showing herself that she could rebuild from nothing. And she did. While Amelie posted wedding updates and Chaik smiled in photos pretending nothing happened, Nia was laying bricks for an empire they'd never see coming. They had hurt her and moved on. But they had made one mistake, they gave the wrong woman a reason to start over. And once Nia started, nothing could stop her. By the time people would hear her name again, she wouldn't be the girl left behind. She would be the woman the world couldn't ignore. And when that moment came, her silence would finally make sense. Because it wasn't weakness. It was the beginning of a masterpiece. Nia arrived in Accra with nothing but a suitcase, a laptop, and a quiet fire burning in her heart. She didn't know anyone, didn't have a plan, but she had determination. She used the last of her savings to rent a small room in a crowded neighborhood and applied for every scholarship and program she could find. While others posted filtered pictures online, Nia was walking to libraries, sending emails, and staying up all night watching free coding tutorials on her cracked phone. The pain of her past didn't slow her down, it pushed her forward every single day. One rainy afternoon, while waiting at a bus stop, Nia noticed a man struggling to carry his bag while holding an umbrella. Without thinking, she helped him. They started talking. She spoke honestly, with no fear, about her dreams of building a tech company that could change Africa. The man listened quietly, smiled, and asked her name. She didn't know it then, but that stranger was Kweku Badu, one of the most powerful but secretive billionaires in West Africa. No one ever saw him in public, and yet, there he was, standing at a bus stop like everyone else. Something about Nia impressed him, not just her ideas, but her fire, her focus, her story. A few days later, she got an unexpected call. A small office space had been rented in her name. A laptop, printer, and seed money had been delivered. And there was a message, let's build it. KB. Nia was shocked. At first, she thought it was a mistake. But then she realized, this was real. From that day, everything changed. With Kweku's quiet support and Nia's unstoppable drive, they launched a tech startup focused on digital education tools for young people across Africa. It wasn't easy. They faced challenges, funding issues, and doubts from many. But Nia didn't quit. She worked harder, smarter, and never lost her vision. She spoke at tech events, got featured in magazines, and slowly became a name that people respected, not because of her pain, but because of her power. 3 years passed like a blur. The little company grew into one of the fastest rising startups in West Africa. Nia hired young developers from villages, trained women in coding, and built apps that reached schools and places people had forgotten. She turned her pain into purpose, her silence into strength, and her past into power. And as for Kweku Badu, he didn't stay just a business partner. Over time, their bond deepened. He saw not just her mind, but her heart. Nia, who once felt like she lost everything, had found someone who saw her worth without needing her to explain it. Together, they weren't just building a company, they were building a future. The world that once turned its back on her now watched in awe. Nia had come to Accra with nothing but pain in her heart. And in just 3 years, she had built an empire. Not for revenge, but for purpose. But still, deep in her soul, she knew, her story wasn't finished yet. The wedding of Chaik and Amelie was the talk of the town. Their pictures were everywhere, Instagram, Facebook, blogs. Amelie was showing off her dress fittings, her makeup trials, the cake designs. Chaik was smiling beside her, acting like everything was perfect. To the outside world, it looked like a dream come true. But one person stayed completely silent. Nia. No posts, no comments, no reactions. It was like she had vanished from their lives. And yet, just a few days before the wedding, a single black envelope arrived at their door. It was sleek, expensive looking, with gold writing on the front. No return address, no note, just their names, Chaik and Amelie. Inside was a simple white card. No photos, no glitter, no warm wishes. Just one clean line written in gold ink, your gift will arrive during the vows. That was it. No name, no signature. But they both knew who it was from. Chaik's hands trembled slightly. Amelie stared at the card, confused but trying to laugh it off. It's probably a joke, she said. But deep down, something about it made her nervous. The days leading up to the wedding were full of celebration, but also tension. Chaik kept checking his phone. Amelie kept rereading the card. Something about Nia's silence had become louder than any words. There were no threats, no warnings. Just that one sentence. And that made it more terrifying. They had expected her to be broken, bitter, maybe even angry. They never expected her to be quiet, and bold. That little card said more than 1,000 angry messages ever could. It didn't beg. It didn't cry. It simply promised something. And it was coming during the most important moment of their lives. They tried to ignore it, to move on, but the thought kept creeping in, what was she planning? Amelie doubled the security. Chaik kept asking the planners about possible disruptions. Still, the card stayed on their dresser, untouched. They didn't throw it away. They couldn't. It was like a shadow hanging over the wedding. Pretty decorations, smiles for the camera, but underneath it all, a feeling of something big waiting to happen. The morning of the wedding, Amelie wore her dream gown. The guests arrived in style. The church was filled with flowers, music, laughter. Everyone was ready for a perfect day. Chaik adjusted his tie, smiled at cameras, and pretended everything was fine. But he kept looking toward the door. Waiting. Then the moment came. The priest raised his hand and asked the classic question, if anyone here objects to this union, speak now or forever hold your peace. Everyone held their breath. No sound. No movement. Until the back door slowly opened. But it wasn't Mia. It was a delivery man. Holding a sealed envelope. Addressed to Chaik. And just like that, the room grew cold. The moment had come. Everyone stood inside the decorated church, smiling and waiting. The music had stopped. The priest looked around and asked the familiar words, if anyone objects to this union, speak now or forever hold your peace. The room was quiet. Every eye was on the couple standing at the altar, Chaik in his suit, Amelie glowing in her white dress. They smiled, holding hands. Everything seemed perfect. Then, the back doors slowly opened. A man in a delivery uniform stepped inside, holding a brown legal envelope. No one understood what was happening. He walked straight down the aisle, past confused guests, until he reached Chaik. Special delivery, the man said calmly and handed over the envelope. Chaik took it with shaky hands, his smile gone. The priest paused. The entire church waited. Chaik opened the envelope and pulled out a small flash drive and a printed letter. His face changed instantly. Pale. Cold. Panicked. The priest asked, "Is everything all right?" Chaik didn't answer. The wedding planner quickly rushed to the altar with a laptop. Someone plugged in the flash drive. What came next shocked the entire room. A video started playing on the projector. It was Chaik, 3 weeks after he had proposed to Amelie. He was crying, on his knees, begging Mia not to leave him. "I made a mistake," he said. "You're the one I love. Please don't go. I'll end things with Amelie. I promise." Gasps filled the church. Amelie's face froze. Her hand dropped from Chaik's. But the video wasn't over. More footage played. Screenshots of private messages. Emails. Recordings. Chaik talking to a friend about Mia's inheritance. "Once she gets it after graduation, I'll convince her to invest in something. Then I'll be set. I'm not really trying to marry her sister, I'm just trying to stay close." Easy access. His voice. His words. His betrayal. The church went completely silent. No one moved. Amelie looked at Chaik, eyes wide in disbelief. She opened her mouth to speak, but instead, she fainted right there on the altar. Guests rushed forward, some filming, others screaming. The priest stood frozen. The fairy tale wedding had just become a disaster. Chaik tried to speak, but nothing came out. The crowd stared at him like he was a stranger. The truth was out, and there was no hiding now. Everything he had built on lies had collapsed in one moment, and it all started with that one black envelope. The cameras that were supposed to capture a beautiful wedding were now recording a scandal. Mia's silence over the years had turned into a storm no one saw coming. The gift she promised had arrived, not wrapped in a box, but in truth. Brutal, undeniable truth. And just when everyone thought it couldn't get any more shocking, the doors opened again. And this time, it was Nia. Radiant. Powerful. Dressed in gold. And the whole world was about to witness the moment she took back everything. The church doors creaked open again, and every head turned. The room, still in shock from the video, went silent all over again. And there she was, Nia. She walked in slowly, dressed in a flowing golden gown that shimmered like sunlight. Her head was held high, her face calm, her steps graceful. On her arm was none other than Kweku Badu, the billionaire no one ever saw in public. The man everyone whispered about, now walking proudly beside her. The couple didn't say a word. They didn't need to. Their entrance spoke louder than anything. Chaik's mouth dropped. Amelie, now awake and sitting weakly on the front pew, could only stare. The guests were frozen, phones already raised in their hands, recording the moment. Nia's smirk said everything. Not revenge, not hate, just power. Calm, beautiful, unstoppable power. She walked past them all, not even giving Chaik or Amelie a glance. She walked straight to the altar, placed a small gold card on the steps, and turned around with Kweku. Then, they walked out, hand in hand, as the cameras flashed like fireworks behind them. By the end of the day, the video was everywhere. Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. The walk that broke the internet, people called it. 11 million views in less than 24 hours. Memes, reactions, headlines. Everyone was talking about the woman who turned heartbreak into greatness, silence into a comeback, and betrayal into a moment the world would never forget. Nia had walked away years ago, but now, she had returned, and walked right into history.